I told my parents they will get the same treatment I've gotten when they're old. My parents are typical. They will help everyone else before they help me. They bought a house with one less room so I had nowhere to go when I was homeless in college. They will let my step-siblings' boyfriends/girlfriends live there for free for as long as they want, but I got kicked out at 17. My mom told me if I ever needed somewhere to go I could always stay there. Meaning a cot in the basement as the house is too small for what they already have. I told them today when they're old and my shitty step-siblings abandon them, they better not come running to me. Of course I got the usually spiel. After all we've done for you. To which I replied, okay, you can have a hard cot in the cold wet basement of my house since if I needed to move in today that's what I would get. The look on their faces was priceless. They're realizing they can't guilt trip me over stupid things anymore and hold no power over me. I think it was the first time ever they had a oh fuck realization that they abused their only financially stable adult child out of their lives. When I wrote my dad's obituary, I didn't mention my mom and exposed her years of abuse and neglect. My dad died December 1st, 2022. He briefly lived with me before his passing after a long stint of being chronically ill for the past 15+ years. As his health declined, he relied more on my mom for things. Prior to this, she was never a great person and fully took advantage of his disability and mobility issues as he declined. For years, she claimed to be separated and divorced, talking to other men on the internet. She made claims many times she was going to move away and marry someone else. In addition, she took advantage of him financially. We tried every legal avenue we could find to have her kicked out, arrested, or force her out, but those attempts were met with responses that it was a civil matter and there was nothing that could be done. He made me durable power of attorney and added me to all his accounts. This is a small portion of her abuse, but I promise her actions were no less than neglectful and exploitive. I'd tried for years to get my dad to move in with me, but he wasn't leaving the house he worked so hard to pay for. I brought him home on hospice the day after Thanksgiving and made sure his final days were the best they could be. After meeting with the funeral home to carry out his final wishes, I was told they required consent from my mother to allow me to cremate him. It was no surprise she initially told me no and only agreed after I allowed her to keep the Social Security survivor benefits, which would have been hers anyway. I wrote his obituary and left her out of it. There was not a single word or mention he'd ever been married or had a spouse. I didn't feel she deserved to be recognized or viewed as a grieving widow when she spent their marriage as a shitty spouse and person. She lost her mind, and there were many questions from friends and family alike. I've spent years in therapy working through maternal narcissistic abuse and believe if she didn't want me to talk about it, she shouldn't have done it. When people asked about it, I was honest about the years of abuse my father and I endured from her. I've completely ruined the public image and victim complex she spent years creating. I might be the villain and asshole in this scenario, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Abuse me as a child? Teenage me might ruin your life. I've wanted to tell this story for so long and I figured this was the perfect place. Apologies if the spelling and grammar aren't amazing. I've written this out in one sitting and don't have the energy to edit. When I was about 10 years old, my dad got a new girlfriend, Lauren. Lauren was an evil monster. When I first met her, she was lovely and friendly. I quickly liked her. But over the years, everything went downhill fast. It started small. Lauren would steal my things, then deny it. Of course, everyone believed her. She'd tell me that my dad loved her more than me and that if she wanted to, she could click her fingers and he'd never see me again. She read my diary, then told everyone what I'd written. She reported me to the RSCPA for abusing my animals. I wasn't. After a couple of years, she had my dad beating me. Yes. I know he was an adult with choices and I hold him just as responsible. She would constantly tell my dad how bad I was and encourage him to hurt me. After a while, he'd always snap and end up doing what she wanted. There are so many more things she did, but you get the picture. My dad and Lauren separated when I was about 16 years old, but they had a house together still. It was around this time, as a suicidal, miserable teenager, that I decided I'd get even. I spent months on my plan, and this is what I did. I wanted Lauren's entire life to fall apart all at once, so everything had to be perfectly timed. I started by getting her fired and a minor criminal record. Lauren worked at a police warehouse for seized items, but naughty Lauren was stealing from the warehouse, so I made notes on what she stole, and once I had a decent enough list, I anonymously contacted her boss with my list. Lauren was immediately suspended. After a few weeks, she was found to be guilty of stealing. She was immediately fired and charged with theft, including theft of a Class C substance. Now Lauren was unemployed and pretty much unemployable. On to stage 2, Lauren, with no income, needed to sell the house as she was now unable to pay her mortgage. My dad also wanted to sell so he could move in with his new girlfriend, so I made the house unsellable and pretty unpleasant to live in. My dad and Lauren were stupid and never locked their back door. I didn't have keys, so I'd sneak in when I knew they were out and hide disgusting things. Bugs everywhere. Old prawns hidden under floorboards. I even stitched some old prawns into the bottom of the curtains. Dead mice everywhere, including under Lauren's pillow. Live mice in the pantry. The house stank and no one could figure out why. Estate agents refused to list it, or would only list it for far under the value, and potential buyers would leave quickly after no one could explain the source of the vile smell. Lauren was approaching bankruptcy, exactly what I wanted. Only one area of her life left to destroy. Lauren had been in a relationship for a year or so with this guy. I can't even remember the poor guy's name. We'll call him John. Well, Lauren was cheating on John, and with his own father of all people. Poor John proposed to Lauren. He needed to know who she really was. One day when Lauren had John's dad over, I got in the house via the unlocked back door. I grabbed her mobile, which she'd left in the kitchen. It took a few attempts and a lot of house watching to get lucky with the phone. I texted John from her phone pretending to be Lauren. I told him I was sick and asked him to come over. Of course, good old John rushed over. I unlocked the front door and texted him letting him know to let himself in as I was in bed sick. I left and hid around the area. The drama was intense. Lauren and John's dad half-naked chasing after John in the street, screaming, crying. I think John might have even punched his dad before driving off. Obviously, the relationship was over, and John's dad even ditched her in an attempt to get his son's forgiveness. So Lauren was alone, broke, unemployable, facing charges and about to be bankrupt. Sadly, I don't know how the story ends. I cut contact with my dad around that time, and thus my connection to Lauren was gone. I do remember my dad mentioning her being suicidal right before we stopped speaking, so in my eyes my goal was achieved. I didn't need to see the fallout anyway, just knowing what I'd achieved was more than enough for me. And that's the story of how I got revenge. Writing it out, I realize how unreal it sounds, but that's the whole story. I am so confused, and I'm getting no help from the police. This is a long story, and I'm so discombobulated it may be hard to read, sorry. So I'm 37, one of 6 kids. I have done so many things to help my mother over the years. She never returns the favors. She is physically and emotionally abusive to 5 out of 6 kids. Her firstborn is her favorite and she idolizes him but treats the rest of us like shit. I'm the second oldest, and almost all of my siblings have lived with me at some point because my mother is impossible to live with. Anyway, on a Thursday sometime in late August, I got a phone call from the hospital that I needed to pick up my 16-year-old brother. After picking him up, I learned that him and my mother were fighting, and she called the cops because when she was hitting him, he put an arm up to block it, and she freaked out saying he was assaulting her. She was in fear, a lot of made-up shit, and they insisted he be taken in for a psych evaluation. After the evaluation, the hospital wouldn't release him to my mother because DCF had stated the safest place for him was my house. When I picked him up, he begged me to take him home just to get some clothes before coming to my house. I knew my mother was still awake because I had just seen her at the hospital when I picked him up. I only agreed to bring him to get clothes because I know how my mother is, and she will absolutely destroy everything he owns just because she can. I told him we would get what he needed as quick as possible and get out. I told him not to argue with her, even if she tries to engage in an argument. I went in with him, and so did my 12-year-old son. The door was locked. She removed the spare key from outside, so we had to knock. She opened the door and let us in, but immediately tried to start arguing. She says I feel like this is really bothersome. I said he is just grabbing some clothes, and I told him to be quick. I'm not here to fight with you, nor do I want to. I asked him to quietly get his stuff and not to engage with you because I didn't want any fighting. We will be quick. She then starts yelling, "Oh, he's not removing his drugs from this house," and lunged towards his room, since she had already cornered him and attacked him once that day, and now my child was in that room as well. I stepped in front of her and said, "You are not going to corner him and attack him while I'm standing right here. He is getting what he needs for the next few days from his room, and then we will leave. There is no reason for this to turn into another altercation." She then starts screaming like a lunatic to get the fuck out. "You fucking loser," amongst other things, and kept getting closer and closer to me, while still screaming. She's literally in my face, shaking her finger, screaming in my face. I yelled to the kids to move it along because she was escalating quickly. I ignored most of what she was screaming and focused on getting the kids out. She wouldn't get out of my face. I finally yelled back, "Get out of my face." She shoved me as hard as she could. Both children were standing behind me and saw it happen. I was standing at the top of 3 steps that go down into my brother's room. She tried to shove me down the steps. I shoved her back and said, "Don't touch me, keep your hands to yourself." Then she grabs my hair with one hand and my tank top strapped with the other and is trying to shake me around. I told her to get her hands off me 3 times before I defended myself. When I defended myself, all I did was grab her by her hair, because she had mine and wouldn't let go, and I pulled her to the side and down, basically moving her in a position that forced her to let go of me. The second she released me, I put my hands in front of me, out and down, took 2 huge steps backwards away from her and told the kids to move it to the car. She called the police, and I was charged with harassment and have to get a public defender and deal with all of that. When I finally heard her statement, I still have not received a copy. The public defender read her statement to me in court. Her entire statement is lies. She says I broke into her house, I assaulted her. She even said that when she fell, I was bent over her laughing and screaming profanities, which absolutely never happened. The problem: the police came to my house that night. I told them what happened, but they did not speak to either witness even though they were here. A week later, they bring the court paperwork and I again explain what happened and asked what they would be doing about the fact that she assaulted me. They told me they don't cross-petition and to talk to the court. I did. The court says the only ones who can press charges are the police, and if they are refusing to do so, I'm SOL. Shit out of luck. So right now I'm dealing with court over completely false allegations. She's getting away with assaulting me, and she is harassing anyone and everyone who is showing any kind of support for me on social media. Spreading her lies, seriously saying the kids saw me assault her. Both kids say they saw her assault me, but she just ignores that. What the hell do I do? How is it okay for her to assault me? How can I get the police to actually do their job? I have multiple siblings that would even testify that she's done the same thing to them. I have 2 witnesses to her attacking me, but I'm being treated like the criminal when I'm the victim here. I protected a child, and got attacked for it. And if this is the way it works, does that mean I'm free to assault her as long as I call the cops first? Essentially, that's why she's getting away with assaulting me. I haven't had contact with her since this incident, and I don't intend to have contact ever again. Had I known she would escalate to this point, or be a pathological liar about it, I wouldn't have been near her. Sometimes I get sucked in because I have younger siblings that need my help, and if I don't step in, she will destroy their life with her false allegations, amongst other things. She beats my brother down with her words. You are a piece of shit. Why don't you go cut yourself, you loser? Yes, she says things like this to a vulnerable teen. I never thought that I'd need more than witnesses to prove what happened. It just doesn't make sense. But obviously now that I know how fucked up the system is, I will not be in her life at all. I have said all this to the police. They do not seem to care. The same police have been to her house many times and absolutely should already know what they are dealing with. I just don't know what I can possibly do to get them to help me. I think I'm dating the man that got me pregnant on a one-night stand. I'm a single mother to a beautiful little girl from a one-night stand, about 4.5 years ago. Just finished college and had just moved and wasn't looking for anything serious. It also happened just before I left on my 2-month-long post-college vacation. I have been dating this man for 4 months. He's met my daughter once. They get along extremely well. But I don't let them overlap too much. I don't want to expose her to passing in flings. And though he has mentioned wanting to continue this, we aren't quite serious yet. Prior to last week, he's been coming back to my place because I had a bad experience going back to another man's place a year ago. So I went back to his place for the first time. It's the same fucking building as that man. I didn't really recognize it until we pulled into the parking garage and went up the elevator, but I know it is. But I recognized the hallways instantly. It also had a very recognizable condo smell. I don't know why I remember that. But I feel like they use the clean solutions that spas use. It smells like eucalyptus and apartment musk. The condo itself is similar, but it's been 4 years and I honestly don't remember anything but his room, and that he had a red couch and the layout, which I'm assuming is similar for most of the condos. He doesn't have the couch, but the layout's the same, and I'm pretty sure it has the same view from its main window. Before people come at me for not hunting him down, etc. When we slept together, I had just moved to the city after my master's. I never would have found his condo myself. I bust back. Also, we had obviously been drinking. It's been a week, but I genuinely thinking it's him now because, though they were busy, we met both times at 2 very similar events. 4 years ago, the man had shoulder-length wavy dark hair and a thick beard when we slept together. He does have a similar skin tone, kind of Mediterranean. The man I am dating has short cropped dark hair, light stubble and glasses. He is also an Italian background. They have the same name. It's a very basic American name, so I never connected it together. Also, to make it worse, I likely look very different too. I used to be very thin, and suffered from an eating disorder that my pregnancy really and helped me to overcome. I've gained 30 pounds that I really needed. I also had short hair that I straightened, and I'm half black and admittedly look very different now with my longer curly hair. I've been dwelling on this for the entire week. I don't know what I'm asking. But I don't know if I also need legal advice. Or if I should cut contact, because even if he isn't him, I don't think I'll be able to get over this weird feeling that his is. Is there a way to bring this up? Should I message him and let him have the option to ghost me? I'm scared he'll think I'm crazy if I bring this up. Or that I planned it or something weird like that. How do I approach this? Or should it not be approached at all? It's so fucking mental, I don't know what to do. Sorry if absolutely none of this makes any sense. Also, to be clear, I am stable time-wise and money-wise. I do not need this man in my life. My daughter has two amazing father figures in her uncles who visit every other day and absolutely love their roles in her life and would probably steal her if they could. Edit, it's him. He had the red couch, I remembered. So if anyone has any suggestions about how to tell a man this, that would be great. Thanks. Edit 2. I sent him this post. I didn't know how else to do it. He saw it half an hour ago and has yet to respond. So I'm going to bed. Edit 3. I woke up to a lot more comments than I was expecting. And I just dropped my daughter at her uncle's, so I will respond to what I can now. I'm getting some flack for telling him this way. But until you're in an absolutely insane position like this, you don't know how impossible it is to broach a topic like this. I'm not a shy person, but this was enough to almost make me completely ghosting him. Even though I do like him, and I know it's wrong. We've been talking for 6 months and dating for 4. He asked about monogamy 2 weeks ago. I agreed. With this post, I sent him a picture of me for 5 years ago, and told him the event and when, where, and any other small details I could remember. And the sonogram with the date I have on my fridge. He messaged at like 4 a.m. to say, yes, I was there. I remember you. And I've seen the text bubbles popping up and disappearing all morning. I don't have any other update. And I'm not sure I will. I clearly only looked for potential partners who would be okay with a woman with a kid into the picture. My daughter is the world to me. But I'm not sure how this cannot be an incredible shock. I'm going to give him time and contact my family's lawyer with the shitstorm I know I've just caused. I do want to have a laugh, though, at the people who think it's impossible of me to have forgotten what an ONS, one-night stand, looked like. It was 5 years ago. We have both clearly changed a lot, and we had been drinking. There are people I don't recognize from uni who sat next to me in class for a year. Thanks for the help earlier. I'll probably have to delete this. But this has really helped me calm down. I used to journal a lot before I had my daughter. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to enable the notification bell.